If you're teaching quarter rest, then you probably need a lot of songs in which to teach quarter rest. And one of my favorite ones is Bow Wow Wow. This is a super cute singing game, folk song that your kids are gonna love. It's dog themed, so it's very fitting that we have a dog here with us. This is Tolly. Nyla is in the other room, calmly not bothering us, so we're not gonna bring her name up too much. But this is a really fun game. There is a singing game. There's also, I'm gonna give you an alternative singing game that I made up, and then we'll share some other things. So first of all, the song, Bow Wow Wow goes, bow wow wow, whose dog art thou? Little Tommy Tucker's dog, bow wow wow. The singing game that goes along with this one is a, like, I don't know how to describe it. The kids sit in a circle and they face someone in the circle. So they're in a circle, but they're facing people, and they do some movements. Here's the other dog. And they do some movements along with the song. So on Bow Wow Wow, they stomp. So it's like bow wow wow. On Whose Dog Art Thou, they wag their finger at their partner. Little Tommy Tucker's dog, they grab hands and they swap places. So if you were on the right, you're now on the left. If you were on the left, then you're on the right. And then on the final Bow Wow Wow, they stomp again. And on the last rest, they say, whoo, and they turn around. So if I was looking at this partner, now we're turned looking this way, and I have a new partner. You keep going until the students get back to their original partner in the circle. So really cute little movement activity, really fun, especially with like first graders. It's a little bit hard to get the kindergartners to do it, but they can, you just gotta work on it. And even I use this with second grade and they love it as well. So super cute, super fun. Now, somehow I managed to not know that there was a game for this for like years. And so I was gonna use this to teach quarter rest, and I was like, man, I really need a game, but I don't have a game for it because somehow I missed the whole singing game. I don't know, don't ask. But alas, I came up with my own little game so that we had something to play. And now that I do know the original one, I actually use both. So what I do is I just take a little stuffed dog, like a little Beanie Baby, and I use 3 containers that are identical. Hand drums actually work pretty well if you have like the thick hand drums, but anything will do that's as long as they're the same. Put the dog under one of the containers, and while you sing, just move all the containers around. At the end, the kids raise their hand, and if you can tell me where the dog is, I usually will call on someone. They come up and they pick up the container and see if they're correct, and if they're correct, then they win that round and they get to be the next person who does that, which is why you're going to want people to raise their hands, because most of them, especially with the older kids like second grade, most of them will be able to keep an eye on it and actually get the right one. This game is really fun, especially if you have limited space. So the other one, you know, you have to be like in a big circle and moving around, which is great, but it's also nice to have like a smaller space game, and especially if you're going into the teacher's classrooms, it's a good one. If you need like a nice quiet game, it's a good one. So highly recommend. I use both of them actually, and so always a good time. Now I use this song to teach quarter rest, and typically I use it to like practice quarter rest. So I'll present quarter rest in a different one, and then after we have figured out like, okay, this is what quarter rest looks like, we'll read some rhythms, and that will lead us to this song. So typically I'll introduce quarter rest. I have a video about that, so I'll link that down below, and then I will show the kids the rhythms to the song. We'll read the rhythms, and then I'll teach them the song. After that, then we'll play one of these games, and then on the next day we'll play the other one of these games. I typically like to do the guessing game the first time, and then the second time as like a warm-up we'll do the circle game where they're moving all around. After they do that, then my favorite thing is to have them figure out the rhythms. So you can do this a couple of different ways. The way I do this is actually in my Bow Wow Wow lesson pack. I have a lesson pack that has slides that you can put like a presentation up on the screen. I think it's a PDF format, but it's like screen size. And then it also has some printables that go along with it, including the rhythm matching activity. So with this, you have, it's 2 pages that have the lyrics, and it has boxes above the lyrics, and then you get all the little rhythms that go along with it. I always give them like the exact correct rhythms, which is great, because if they get to the end and they're like, I need another taw. I'm like, well, you don't need another taw. You have all the things you need, which means that you need to adjust something. So that also makes them like go back and think like, okay, where was I wrong? Because somewhere there's a taw and there's not supposed to be a taw. So I like to do that in pairs, and so I'll put them into pairs and have them get like the 2 boards and then all the little cards, and their goal is to figure out all the rhythms and put them on there. You could also do that with whiteboards, which is actually harder, or you can laminate or put the papers into like those whiteboard things, or also page protectors works just fine, and have the kids write the rhythms there. That's actually even harder than doing it with the icons, because with the icons, you know, okay, I'm gonna use this many rhythm, this many quarter notes, and this many eighth notes. With markers, you have to figure it all out on your own, and so that's a really great way to practice rhythm on the opposite side of that, and that's my favorite thing to do along with this song. Now, if you need a couple other things to do, I always like to share extensions for whatever folk song we are working on in these videos. I have a ton of these videos, by the way, so I think I have a whole playlist of like folk song lessons. And so one of my favorite things, we have put things in order, but I also like to pair this with Doggie Doggie Where's Your Bone, because I like a good thematic transition, and so I like to pair all those things, you know, together. This is a really cute little folk song and singing game, and it goes, doggy, doggy, where's your bone? Someone stole it from my home. Who stole your bone? I stole your bone. And so all the kids sing verses lines 1 and line 3. Line 2, the doggy sings. So the doggy is usually in the middle of the circle with their eyes closed. And then while you're singing, the teacher goes around and puts a bone, or I've used like a pencil or whatever, into somebody's hands around the circle. So I always have the kids put their hands behind their back, and I put it in someone's hands. And so that person, whoever gets it, sings the last line by themselves. I stole your bone. And then the person in the middle, who's the doggy, has to try to guess who has it. This is done mostly based on like what their voice sounds like, but you can also let them open their eyes and see, you know, who's squirming and looks like they might have the bone. And it's a really fun little game. It's another good one that's great in a classroom, because, you know, everyone's seated and stuff like that. You can even have them at their desk and have the doggy in the front, which is like a calmer way to do it than in the circle. And it's really fun, especially with like solo singing, so you get like that kindergarten, first grade, second grade kind of age. I've actually used this with older kids, because I've used it in children's church with like 4th and 5th graders, because in children's church I have like K through 5. And it's always a hit. Really fun, really cute. The kiddos love it. And when they really get the hang of it, then they can use like silly voices to try to trick them into thinking that it's somebody else, and that's like really, really fun. Kindergarten doesn't quite get that, but with the older kids, it's really, really fun. If you need another quarter rest song, then I would highly recommend Frog in the Meadow. This is probably my favorite quarter rest song, and oh, maybe not. I have a lot of favorite quarter rest songs. Quarter rest it's a good one to teach. You know, some things are just easier to teach than others. Quarter rest has a lot of really fun songs. So quarter rest, we do Frog in the Meadow, which goes, frog in the meadow, can't get him out. Take a little stick and stir him about. It's got quarter rest, and it's also a singing game. For this one, the frog is in the middle of the circle. They close their eyes and they spin around while you sing. At the end, whoever they point at, they go over to those students, and usually the students are holding hands, and they go over and cut the cake style, like in between the people's hands, and they let go. Those 2 kids go around the circle in opposite directions, come back and high five the frog. First person to high five the frog is the winner. That one is really fun. I don't love it with kindergarten because it's a lot of moving parts, but especially like 2nd grade loves that one, because it's a little more like, it's like a complex version of Duck Duck Goose, because you've got like the kids going opposite ways, and just like there's a lot of things in there. I will say I like to do this one seated instead of having them standing and holding hands, just to keep the chaos down a little bit, because it does get a little crazy. And I usually just have the kid tap the 2 on the shoulder, and that works just fine too. And finally, some books for this one. So I love to use the Pig the Pug books with this one, because, you know, just any dog book would be totally fine, but Pig the Pug is just a really funny book. There's a whole series of them. They're hilarious. I will link the original one down below, and they're just so funny, really great. And that's probably my favorite of the dog of the dog books. All right, so that's a little bit of stuff on Bow Wow Wow. I am gonna say, because I know someone's gonna ask me in the comments, every once in a while I just like to throw this out there. People will be like, I wish you could do this with kids so we could see it. I'm not gonna do it with kids because FERPA, and I am not gonna put that onto the internet. I know other people do, but that is a line that I am not crossing. So just that is why I'm sitting here explaining it to you as best I can instead of showing it to you with children. I do recognize that would be easier to understand. However, you know, we're making do with what we can do. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.